Hi, my name is Michael Murdoch. I'm a teacher who's taught in the public school system and the federal correctional system, both adult and children. And I'm here today to tell you a little bit about some of the options available for your high school equivalency exam. The most popular is the GED, and we're going to talk about that, but there's some others we also are going to get into. So you're probably wondering, well, what are these? Who takes them? Should I? And how do you take them? Okay, so the main high school equivalency tests are the GED, the General Equivalency Degree Exam, which you're probably familiar with. That was the most popular and more or less the only one in the United States until about the last 5 or 10 years, when some other ones have come into play, like the TASC, the HISET, the NEDP. This one's a little confusing because it's often an actual diploma and not necessarily an equivalency exam. It involves a lot of life skills and practical and applied exercises, as well as written exercises that are done on the computer. There's no actual certification exam that correlates with the NEDP, so it's technically not a high school equivalency test, but it's really in the same category and will show up in a lot of these equivalency programs. The TASC and the HISET do offer pencil and paper exams. The GED and the NEDP are solely computer-based. There's one other equivalency test. I won't really be getting into it because it's only available in California. It's called the CHSPE. I put up the phone number and the contact information for that, and again, that is California only. Okay, let's start talking about the GED. Many of you are probably already familiar with this. You've heard of this. The GED is a type of high school equivalency exam. It's still the most popular in most states in the United States. It has 4 subjects: language arts, which includes an essay, mathematical reasoning, which is math, science, and social studies, which includes history and some other things. Now, those 4 subjects are 70 to 150 minutes per section. The language arts is the longest one. It includes a section that has some reading and writing exercises, where you look at paragraphs and do some miscellaneous things. It's 150 minutes total with a 10-minute break, and I believe the essay is about 45 minutes or so. It has the most difficult essay of any of the high school equivalency tests we're going to talk about. The mathematical reasoning has algebra, percentages, and those are the 2 areas that tend to give people trouble, but there's a number of other things that are high school level mathematics. Science includes biology, etc. They're multiple choice, fill-in, short answer, and essay. The GED has the greatest variety of any of these tests. Most of the other tests skew towards either multiple choice or a specific format. It's scored from 100 to 200. So that's like a 100 is a 0 and a 200 is a 100. But it doesn't really break down like that. A 145 is passing. It's computer administered. You can only take it on the computer. And one of the things about this, and most of the other tests, is you only have to retake the failed portion. The cost of the exam varies widely, but it's usually somewhere in between $20 to $30 a section, or $100 to $150 in total. I'm going to talk some more about the scoring. 100 to 144, that's failing, below passing. 145 to 164 is a pass, and anything higher than that's a pass as well. One of the things that's interesting about the GED is if you score higher than 164, 165 to 174, that indicates college ready. That's honors score levels. 175 to 200, in some, this is relatively rare, but some schools will offer you college credit for that. Again, it's fairly rare, so I wouldn't really count on this. But one of the things that's nice about that is if you are applying for college and you do achieve a score that's a 165 to 200, you can indicate that, and it shows it on the score report, GED with honors. And that shows you have a high level of comprehension, which may help you in your admissions to a community college or something else of that nature. Most four-year institutions do still require the SAT or ACT exam, so it's not going to help you that much there, but it is something that could be excellent in an institution that may not require an exam, or it might be a community college that may waive it in the instance of that. It's also available in Spanish, not necessarily in all states. And the subsections, this is important to note, the subsections, that means each individual task you're writing, science, etc., you don't have to take those the same day. So you could space out those 4 sections over 4 different days, or you could take 2 one day, 2 another, however you'd like to do it. And remember, if you fail one of the sections, you can just retake that particular section. So if you take if you take one of the sections, say the science and the mathematics, the same day, and you fail the mathematics, you would only have to retake the mathematics portion when you come back. The science still counts. It's the most commonly accepted equivalency exam. Almost every college in the country will take this. And one of the things that's nice is since it is on the computer, the results are often available within 3 hours. So there used to be a lot of anxiety related to waiting for your exam results. A lot of that's gone with these computer tests because they're graded almost instantaneously. And I mean, that's really great for a lot of people who may be in a time crunch situation. Okay, you might be somewhat surprised that there are exams other than the GED. There really weren't other high school equivalency tests even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. What happened was the GED changed from a pencil and paper format to a computer format. And because of that, certain state and municipal institutions could no longer administer it because of the fact there's certain laws where people who are incarcerated or whatnot need to have the opportunity to take a high school equivalency exam. And since the GED was only offered on a computer, this would be unnecessarily burdensome to prison institutions and facilities who may not have the money or resources or supervisory capabilities to administer on computers. So that's one of the major reasons behind. Another reason is the cost of the GED exam went up, and some of these other options cut better deals with the states, and there's various other backroom operations and politics that took place. But what wound up happening was some of these other contenders started to enter into the situation. Many states will accept 2 or even more exams. Several states have 3 or more. I believe California has at least 4 exams that it'll take. I believe it'll take the GED, the TASC, the NEDP, and that specific exam we mentioned earlier, that California only exam. The specific name eludes me. I'm not very familiar with it. Here's what's important. The GED is no longer available in 11 states. I'm going to go through the states just in case it's one of yours. This is kind of surprising for a lot of people. It actually surprised me when I started doing this. I actually started doing this because I'm currently writing up a GED course, and I was shocked to find out that the GED is no longer offered in my state, which is New York. This may include federal correctional facilities, but the GED is no longer offered in Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Maine, Massachusetts, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, New York, Tennessee, and West Virginia. And 2 of those are urban areas, New York, Massachusetts, and I guess to a lesser degree some of the others, but they have some big cities, so I was really surprised that they transitioned to this. Some of you probably are too, but don't worry, we're going to get into some of these other exams too. A lot of them aren't incredibly daunting. They're somewhat similar to the GED. It's not massively different change in content. How they test the material, though, is very different, so you will need different study materials. Don't buy a GED book and expect to take the TASC exam or the high test exam. They're very different tests. The content's similar, but you're going to need different books and study materials. Okay, the TASC exam is the first of these ones that I'm going to get into. The TASC exam has 5 sections: reading, social studies, science, writing, and math. You'll notice that's 5 rather than the 4 of the GED. The exam subsections, again, like the GED, don't have to be taken on the same day, but they must be taken within 60 days of each other. The reading is 75 minutes and 50 questions. That's similar to the portion on the GED with reading comprehension. You'll have a lot of reading comprehension style questions. Social studies, again, is very history centered. 75 minutes, 57 questions approximately. Science is 75 minutes and 57 questions. The writing's 105 minutes total, 50 questions with a 45-minute essay. In the writing section, you will be correcting some sentences of other people, and you will be writing an essay. The essay on this is easier than the GED essay. The GED essay tends to give a lot of people trouble. The math portion of this exam is 105 minutes with 50 questions. You can use a calculator for the first half only. The first half is more rote mathematical questions. The second half is more word problems and more real-world based problems. The math section of the TASC gives a lot of people difficulty. Because of that, it's frequently considered one of the more difficult of the equivalency exams. A pass is a 500 on each section and a 2 out of 8 on the essay. The TASC exam, unlike the GED, can be taken either on the computer or pencil and paper. Okay, the next one up, this is what we talked about earlier. I said this is a little confusing. The NEDP, the National External Diploma Program. This is from CASAS. It's not actually an exam. I know a lot of you are rejoicing right now because you heard me say that. It's not an exam. This sounds great, Mr. Murdoch. It does still require a lot of work. It's a self-paced program, and it's a high school diploma, usually from the state's education department. And that's a little different than the GED and the TASC that we talked about and the high test we're going to talk about in a minute. Because there's no difference between this and a high school diploma. And that's really, that's different. That really hadn't been done before this. So that's a great thing in a lot of ways. And if you're a mature adult, this might be something you want to look into if you're very bad at taking the test. Some people just aren't good test takers, and they failed the GED multiple times, but they understand, some of these academic subject areas, and I understand that. That's really the target audience for something like this. It's not very young people. Very young people, I would really recommend you take night classes. You should take night classes. That's if you can do that and you're capable of doing that, take night classes. Now with the NEDP, it's 6 to 12 months average to complete the course. And that's a long time. It's a self-paced program. And that doesn't mean it's easy. You're going to be submitting this to an instructor. These are assessments, so there'll be a lot of writing. So if you're weak on writing, if you're weak on that area, this may not be something for you. And it's offered in a limited number of places: DC, Virginia, New York, Maryland, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. It also requires a computer for all assignments. This is different than any of the other things we're going to be talking about. You really need a computer because you're going to have to submit these assignments. You could use your local library if you have access to that, but this may be burdensome for some people. Prior to enrolling in one of these programs, you do have to take a pre-examination and demonstrate a 9th grade ability prior to enrollment. And there's a total of 10 skills. 3 are foundational, 7 are life skills: communication, media literacy, applied math and numeracy, that's math, and information and communication technology. The life skills are civil literacy and community participation, that's a long way of saying civics, consumer awareness and financial literacy, that's basic finance, knowing your way around some money matters, cultural literacy, geography and history, that's social studies, health literacy, that's nutrition and eating well, science and 21st century workplace. That means not being a degenerate at your workplace. It can cost several $100s, which is different than a lot of these other ones because it can be very expensive. A lot of times that is subsidized by the state, but This one can be tricky because it's not offered in a lot of places. You may have to coordinate with a center or facility, and you do have to take that test to demonstrate the 9th grade ability prior. But again, that might be something great for someone who does have an academic capability but has failed several of these exams previously. HISET is the last of these tests I'm going to talk about. Again, it's a high school equivalency exam. It has 5 sections. Each of them is from 65 to 120 minutes, 2 hours. There's reading, writing, mathematics, science, and social studies. Pretty much the same rundown as the TASC exam. Each section consists of either a multiple choice or essay-style questions. Don't worry, just one essay. Should have written it a little more clearly. And takes from 65 to 120 minutes. All the questions are multiple choice except the one essay. Again, like the TASC, this is computer or pencil and paper. So you have that choice again. A pass is 45 out of 100 overall, 8 out of 20 on each subsection, and a 2 out of 6 on the essay. There's 23 states that use the HISET, and again, many of these states will also use either the GED or TASC. Some of them use the NEDP. Okay, the states with HISET are California, Colorado, Hawaii, Illinois, Iowa, Louisiana, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, and Wyoming. That exam, it's a similar profile to the TASC. TASC is a little harder. But again, you may just want to look them over. Look over the study materials. If you can go into a Barnes & Noble or look over the first few pages on Amazon inside this book. There's an option. Most of these books, you can click on it. See some examples of some of these questions. I really can't reprint most of them because it completely violates copyright law. But you can look inside a lot of these books to get a feel for these type of questions. They're a little different. Each one of these tests has a different focus. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about motivation. You see a little cartoon I have here. When you feel like giving up, look back at how far you come. Be strong, stay on your path, never stop going. Okay, it's important to stay motivated. And it's tough sometimes. I know a lot of you had a lot of obstacles. You might wonder, how you got here, and you might think, well, why does it matter? Since you're watching this, I know you think it does matter. Now, age for some of these equivalency exams is a factor. So that's some of the reasons why your education may have been interrupted, whether it be for illness, legal problems, misspent youth. You spent the time, with the wrong people, the wrong crowd, and got into some trouble or whatnot, pregnancy, responsibilities. Or you might be from a country that lacks a lot of the educational opportunities we're blessed with in America. Those are all reasons why people's education are routinely interrupted. And that really doesn't matter now. What matters is you decided to make the choice. I'm going to take the GED or one of these other exams and get my high school equivalency. And like I said before when I was talking about the NEDP, the reasons why when we talk about age, it can be a factor. For very young people, I would recommend night school if you can. If you can't, get a high school equivalency. But if you can, your first option should probably be the night school so you could get a traditional diploma. Because those really do look better to employers if you're able to do that. For older people, I would probably get the one of the equivalency tests. I'd study for them. I'd take them. You can take classes for these equivalency exams. Most of the communities have something in your local community college or whatnot, or civic center, and it's pretty common that they have the preparation courses for these exams. So you'll see. I'll show you a link in a minute that I'm going to talk about a little more. But basically, every state has a contact you can call and you can ask them questions. A lot of them are really friendly people and they want to help you. And there's some other things out there. There's maybe specific schooling available for pregnant young women and other non-traditional students whose education has been interrupted for less than 1 year. In some states it's 2 years, but you really, if you're one of those young people in some of those categories I listed, like a pregnant youth, or youth who, due to incarceration or some other legal difficulties, had their education interrupted for a period of time specified in your state, look at those options, because some of those non-traditional schools may have additional services that you won't get otherwise. And you'll also have that interaction with other people your age who might be from a similar circumstance, teachers who understand your particular background and struggles and whatnot. Okay? Some of you might be thinking, oh man, Mr. Murdoch, these tests sound hard. I'm not a good test taker. I don't know. These tests, these sound like the 7-hour test. The longest test I ever took was an hour, and I failed that one. Well, you don't have to worry, because like I said, if you break these things down into smaller parts, if you break these tests down into smaller pieces, they're not that hard. And I've tutored a lot of people who came from very disadvantaged circumstances and backgrounds when I worked in the prison system. And a lot of them thought they'd never pass. And they did. And you can too. So don't be discouraged. I'm going to give you some motivation right now, okay? I got that little heart up in the corner with the Band-Aid on. You might have had some challenges. I understand that. I've faced some myself too. I won't get into that now, but here's some reasons why a lot of people say they want to take a high school equivalency exam. Some of this is from people I've talked to. They want to be a better role model for their children. Makes a lot of sense. You want to say, it's tough to say, do as I say, not as I do. If you don't have your degree, telling your child high school's important, they might shirk responsibilities and say, well, Daddy never got his diploma and he's doing okay, or Mommy never got her diploma. Or maybe you want to help your children with their homework. A lot of parents, when their children get to algebra, are pretty confused if they haven't finished their high school education, and you want your children to succeed. So part of being a parent and being able to help your children is being sufficiently educated to do so. You may want better career opportunities for yourself. CDL is very common. Entering the military, you need a high school diploma for those. If you don't have a high school diploma or an equivalency, like the GED, TASC, etc., those careers are close to you. You may want to reduce a legal sentence or as a condition of parole or probation. I know in the federal system, according to the points, there is a point reduction in the sentencing for having your equivalency or high school degree. So if you're trying to turn your life around, or if you're looking at, the possibility of incarceration, you really should do this. Maybe you just want to turn your life around. Maybe you're saying, things, I'm hanging around with the wrong crowd and I want to make some changes. Well, this is a good place to start. Education. No one can ever take it away from you. You might want to do it for your mother, your spouse, or for yourself. A lot of young people, when I was helping them attain their GED in the prison system, one of their proudest moments was being able to tell their mother that, I'm not sitting in here playing dice, playing dominoes, doing the miscellaneous. I'm trying to read the classics. I'm trying to pass my GED exam so when I get out, I can do something positive. I can open a barbershop. I can get my CDL. I can do this, that, or the third. And that's the person that's going to be there for you, who's answering your phone calls when you're in. It's mom. Mom's going to be real happy if you can show her you're doing that. Your spouse is, maybe your spouse, you've heard, they say, oh, you're telling me lies all the time. You're doing this, that, and the third. You're in this facility. How are you bettering yourself? Well, you could say, I'm getting my GED. Or just for yourself. Maybe you'd like to pursue further education. Maybe you're interested in some of these academic disciplines. That's great. It's terrific. But to do that, you need to finish your high school diploma or equivalency. Okay, so which test are you going to take? Let's talk about making the choice. What I have right there is a union diagram. It's similar to a Venn diagram, but if you're wondering, A union B is A and B. It's a mathematics thing. And I had that guy scratching his head. Well, which test do I take? He's staring there thinking, well, which do I take? You're probably thinking the same thing. This is all really confusing, and I have no idea what's going on. All right. So the first exam, the first thing we're going to talk about in regard to the exams are computers. And computers nowadays are ubiquitous for some people. That means they're everywhere. For some people, they have limited access to that. That might be you. I don't know. I don't know whether that's the case. Some people, may be a little afraid of computers. That's okay. Now, the GED and the NEDP are computer only. That means you're going to have access to a computer. With the GED, the computer testing isn't at home. A lot of people don't realize computer tests, you might be thinking, oh man, this is great. I can go on Facebook, and I know some of you thinking, oh, you're going to write the answers on the bottom of your shoes or something slick like that. Yeah, I see you thinking that. You're nodding your head. Yeah, I know. You were thinking. No, it doesn't work like that. It's at a proctored location. That means there's someone looking over your shoulder, making sure you're doing the right thing. If you're not, they're going to invalidate the exam. It's very bad. You don't want to be caught cheating on any of these examinations. There's all sorts of problems. You're not going to, though. I know that. Okay? So the GED, it's going to be computer testing at a proctored location. So you don't necessarily even need a computer at your home or residence, or really even need access to a computer at your library. You just need access to the GED study materials. So even though the GED is on a computer in a proctored location, that means the test's on a computer. So it's helpful to know how to use a computer, because you're gonna have to use a mouse to click on the correct answer. That might be a little confusing if you're out of sorts with computers, but if you get one of these test simulator programs that they have for the computer, maybe if you're not computer savvy, maybe your son or daughter or nephew or a close friend or a church member or synagogue or mosque or whatever the case may be can show you that. It's at a proctored location, though, so you're not going to have access to previous exams. It's the same thing with the HISET or TASC. They also have pencil and paper exams, but you could take the computer one. Same thing, proctored computer at the location. You may still have to register online, okay? So you probably do have to have some access to a computer with any of these computer-based exams. They kind of assume you do. With the NEDP, you need access to a computer. We talked about that before. You're going to be submitting assignments for the NEDP. This is basically a portfolio-based class, either at the library or at your residence. It's better if you have a computer at your residence. You're not going to be able to use a cell phone. I know a lot of people now like to do everything on their cell phone. Your cell phone is not a computer. Your cell phone is not suitable for word processing tasks. It is not suitable for academic endeavors. You will fail. So you need access to a computer. Okay, some of us are old-fashioned and like pencil and paper. I'm old-fashioned. I'm not old. I want to make that clear. Okay? I know a lot of you out there are old-fashioned, not old. And you like pencil and paper. Only the HISET and TASC are pencil and paper exams. The rest of them aren't. So if you are steadfast in maintaining you want to use pencil and paper, those are your only two options, HISET and TASC. That's fine. But the computer tests really aren't that bad. I took my first computer exam in 2017. It was a certification for the computer. It was my Network Plus certification. I have a couple of computer certifications. It wasn't that bad. I was a little nervous about it, and I'm good with computers, so I'm a little ahead of the game there. But it wasn't that bad. I was very nervous about taking an exam that wasn't a pencil and paper exam. It really wasn't that different. You're basically selecting one of multiple choice questions using the mouse, and you can go backwards and forwards and all sorts of things. You got to be careful, but it's not that bad. It's actually pretty doable. Most of the young people, I'm sure you're laughing at me right now. I hear you. the young folks obviously aren't going to be taking pencil and paper. You're going to be taking it on the computer. Most likely. You'll probably think it's funny that us old folks are so committed to pencil and paper and are wondering why anyone's even thinking this is an issue. But it is still also an issue in correctional and certain other institutional environments because, like I'd said previously, for various reasons they can't have computers or can't afford computers or whatever the case may be. So the pencil and paper would be the only option in some of those settings. All right, so which one should I take? You're wondering, like the guy in the bottom there. He's thinking, man, which test do I take? I am so confused. You can check what's offered in your state. And you have to think about, what are you good at? What are you bad at? That's something to weigh. You may want to ask a teacher or loved one. If you can't decide, well, what do you think my strongest area is? You may want to take some practice tests. In some of the books, there's a number of study materials available. I'd recommend using the ones recommended by the various agencies that make these exams. The people who make the TASC, the people who make the GED, the people who make HITEST. Look at the books they recommend. And in your state, you may want to call and ask, is there a book that you use in your course? And in many states, there are actually free courses you can take. This is great. It's a fantastic resource. I would recommend, I'm going to put it up in a minute, but when I get to the states and that one-stop, the Career Center, which it's funded by the government, but it lists the links to the state offices. Go to your state office, click the link, and call the folks up, ask them. TASC has the most difficult mathematics portion, and for half of it you can't use a calculator. So some people really don't like that. HITEST is similar to the GED and TASC. They're all pretty similar. I mean, if you have limited writing skills, you may prefer the TASC or HITEST over the GED. The GED essay, a lot of people do fail. And it's not hard. You just have to understand how to write an academic essay, and most people don't. Unfortunately, our schools really have done a bad job with that because they don't teach grammar. I think grammar is absolutely vital and necessary and important. But our school system seeks to, well, I won't get into that. I'll spare you a rant. I think grammar is absolutely vital, and we need to teach business writing. Instead, we teach a lot of nonsense in HUI. But anyway, back to the NEDP. Which should I take? The NEDP requires a lot of time. It's not available in most regions. It can be expensive. It cannot be sometimes. It might be heavily subsidized, but it can cost a lot of money. It can cost hundreds of dollars. And submitting the assignments requires access to a computer. It's usually inappropriate for young people who should just attend night class, like I said. But it may grant a diploma instead of an equivalency, which, especially if you're one of these people who's thinking, maybe I'd like to do something a little more academic. Maybe that could be good. On the other hand, one of the other things about it is it values life experience, which is attractive to a lot of people who failed other equivalency exams. So if you really want to get one of these, you're like, hey, I failed the GED 4 or 5 times. Oh, goodness. But, I really want to show my son or daughter my commitment to learning and whatnot. This might be a good exam for you. Okay. Here's the moneymaker right here. Which test is available in my state? I link to CareerOneStoporg, and this site is funded by the government, and it has a lot of career and job-related resources. It's CareerOneStoporg, and it has a specific thing, and I'll show the graphs in a minute. But CareerOneStop.org, find training types, state HSE options, which is high school equivalency options. And if you go into that and click that, it lists for all 50 states. I'm going to put the link below in the YouTube, just in case. I don't think you can click on it on the YouTube video, but I'm going to post it right below the video. You can click show more, or on Udemy, I'll just list it in the about. Okay, so scheduling and finding a location. Where do I take the exam? What's available in my state? How do I schedule? So maybe you decided which one you're taking. That's good. Now you're trying to, well, what do I do now? You schedule based on your state's procedures. You're going to see which tests are offered in your state. Then you're going to determine which you would prefer. Then you're going to see where the testing locations are. You want to find one by your house, not one by my house. You're not staying over here. Then you schedule your exam. Okay, you can check where the test locations are in your state. Same site I listed before over at CareerOneStoporg. Like I said, it's a fantastic site. You're going to see, going to go back real quick to find it. Okay, so we're going to see, you see any state, like let's say New York. I live in New York. Okay, New York has the TASC and the NEDP. That's the NEDP. Sometimes they'll put the state's 2 letters in front of the NEDP exam. But so for New York, there's the TASC exam. I click on that. It links me to the New York site. You see that? And it says, okay, all the information, who to contact, how to schedule. There's a lot of information, so read through it carefully. I'd just call the contact and ask them. Okay, well, thanks. I hope that was helpful. And you'll probably be seeing my full course soon. All right, have a nice day.